College football bowl season is in full swing, and we're here to update the latest action and more on College Football Weekly on the Our Lads Football Radio Network. So, Mitch, we've already had an opportunity to see a bunch of games, but we have a lot more to come, including the playoffs this weekend. And as we noted last week, this is going to get really interesting at this time of the year. It used to be all about injuries, but definitely suspensions, these kids with all their time off and how do they handle it. Now we're starting to see some really important players that are saying, I'm not playing, I'm going to the NFL, and throw in the fact that we're also seeing a lot of coaching movement as well, including assistant coaches who won't be coaching bowl games. So there's a lot of activity going on, especially big-time players not playing in bowl games.
Yeah, just, the trend continues, and it's, a lot of people have strong opinions on both sides. I don't blame these guys for not playing in a bowl game. I'd love to see them all play. But, we saw Jordan Love play for Utah State. Did not go well for his team, but good to see him go out at least playing in the game. So, it's not the biggest deal in the world. There's far bigger things in college sports to get all riled up about, but, I think we'll continue to see it more and more.
The big assistant news just the last day or two, we knew Bryles, of course, wasn't going to be coaching Florida State next year anyway, but he is going to be now coaching at Arkansas. So that's a good hire at Arkansas for Pittman.
Yeah, it is. And I talked, I think we talked last week about what kind of philosophy they would go with there after the huge shift from the Brett Bielema kind of power rushing to Chad Morris, and Bryles is more on the Chad Morris lineage there, so you don't have to go, the recruiting, the type of athletes, the type of personnel they've been recruiting in the last couple of years. I know they've done well with the wide receiver position. Those guys should fit in nicely with what Bryles wants to do.
Rich Rodriguez, I think, is the only big name I think that's out there as far as an assistant coach.
Yeah, that's interesting. And has Mike McIntyre landed anywhere? I don't think.
No, they're both still out. Yeah, they're both still available.
They're not retained by Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, so both those guys, I think we'll see McIntyre be a head coach again.
And right now, I think, are we done now? Head coaching, right? All the jobs have been taken, haven't they, for this year?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Right.
So
that was fast.
Something could open up. Someone could bolt to the NFL. You never know.
That is true. Matt Rule to the Giants.
Could be. Right now, we're done for now.
All right, sounds good. So we'll keep a track of that as we move forward. We've got some bowl games to cover, so let's get right to it. Let's start, first of all, with the games on Thursday. Louisiana Tech and Miami, the Independence Bowl. So this is sort of like a home game for Louisiana Tech. Miami has been pitiful in bowl games. I think they're just 1-8 in their last 9. And speaking of defections, and injuries, Jonathan Garvin out, going to the NFL draft. You've got key injuries to DJ Dallas, who's definitely not playing, and Brevin Jordan may not play, and Trajan Bandy will play, even though there's speculation that he's headed to the NFL. Meanwhile, for Louisiana Tech, they don't have those problems, so they have a little bit of an edge with the home field and the key players going injured, that kind of thing for Miami. And Miami also just hasn't looked that very, they haven't been playing their best football over the last few games. So I think this is one of those games, this is one of those bowl games that's ripe for an upset.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything points to Louisiana Tech in this. I think it's now their 6-point dog, opened at 7.5. I have been to the the Independence Bowl. I can't imagine that Miami's too motivated to be there. No offense to the fine folks in Shreveport, but it's just when you go to the University of Miami, even though they've struggled, this is not what you have in mind. Be playing Louisiana Tech in Shreveport. So all of those issues, along with the personnel issues in going on at Miami, I think Louisiana Tech will be motivated. I think it's a big deal for Louisiana Tech to play a team like Miami, even though it's not Miami that we might have expected to see this year. I think Louisiana Tech will be properly motivated, and I think they cover and win this game.
The coaching matchup you would think would favor Louisiana Tech as well. Skip Holtz has won 5 straight bowls as the head coach at Louisiana Tech there the last 5 years, including the last 2 years as outright upsets by an 80-24 margin. This is Manny Diaz's first bowl game. He was a Louisiana Tech defensive coordinator back in 2014. Yes. So there's some ties there.
Yep.
And Louisiana Tech 6-0 at home. Again, this is not their home stadium, but still, just so people know, they're a home undefeated record this year for the first time since 1973. And how about this? The last 3 Independence Bowls, the winning margin has been by 24 or more points. Hey. So I'm not sure Louisiana Tech can do that. So, that's an interesting side note. And the best cornerback in college football nobody's ever heard of will be playing for Louisiana Tech, Amick Robertson. So
you have done your research on this game. You've got trends. You've got
I've
personnel.
got everything.
I just said Miami doesn't want to be there, so they're going to lose. That was my research.
I get it. That's you've done your job. I'll do mine.
Yeah.
And you do have a matchup where you got Jamar Williams. You got Jaron Williams, as a redshirt freshman going up against Jamar Smith, the Conference USA Offensive Player of the Year as a senior. So you do have a little bit of an edge there for the Bulldogs too. Okay,
So you're going Louisiana Tech?
I will be going with the Bulldogs. And this is one of the situations where Miami will probably blow out Louisiana Tech because that's what Miami does. Miami kind of does the exact opposite. What you don't expect them to do. Yeah. So watch out for that one. Okay, let's get to the quick lane ball. Oh, by the way, Michael Pickney is also not playing for the game for Miami. Let's get to the by the way, have you seen much of Gregory Rousseau?
No,
seen him play much? Yeah, so look, 14 sacks for a freshman is outstanding. He's got to put on some more muscle. He looks like a big wide receiver still. But we'll keep an eye on him, obviously, as the next couple of years go on, because when you lead your team with 14 sacks as a freshman, that's pretty impressive for Miami. Okay, let's go to the quick lane ball. This one in Ford Field, similar situation where you've got the Dog almost in a home field kind of thing because it's in Detroit. So any bit of help Eastern Michigan can get for additional home fans, that'd be nice. But look, I know where we're both going here, and if anybody listening to the show knows where we're going. As Chris Creighton fans, we are. And Eastern Michigan continues to be a great dog overall. 12-17 straight up. 21-7-1 against the spread. Their last 29 as dogs. You've got, how about this one? 14-1 against the spread in their last 15 as a 4-point dog or higher versus winning teams. So Chris Creighton and Eastern Michigan knows how to cover spreads. The question that we both have is whether or not they'll be able to pull off the upset.
I am going to shock you with this. I'm going Pittsburgh to cover.
Wow. So you think Pittsburgh will be motivated for this game?
Didn't say that. I just, I as you said, love Eastern Michigan, love Chris Creighton and all that.
You think they're going to manhandle them?
Yeah, I do. I think the line of scrimmage, I think it's just going to be one of those games where we all love Eastern Michigan and you're just kind of watching it and be like, that's why, Pitt has the advantage. Line of scrimmage, defensive line. I just think it's going to be difficult for Eastern Michigan to score.
Well, you see, that's why if this is the thing that we won't know, it's probably a good idea that if you are wagering on this game, you might want to live wager it where you watch the game, see how Pitt comes out physically, like what was going on with that SMU FAU game. Because if you watched that game early on, you could tell SMU was tackling like if it was a fall camp game. They had just no motivation at all in that game. FAU, meanwhile, was flying all over the place like if it was the Super Bowl, and you get the outcome. If Pitt flies all over the place with their size advantage up front, you've got Jalen Twyman, you have Patrick Jones. I mean, these guys are two of the better pressure players up front in the ACC. If they come to play, and Paris Ford, we know how hard he can hit in the secondary. If they come to play, Eastern Michigan's in trouble. But if they don't look like they're giving it their all, then this is where Eastern Michigan can pull off a surprise.
Yep. Yep, and one of those, like, I was completely wrong in that SMU FAU game, and that's why bowl games are hard to forecast, hard to predict.
Creighton 0-2 in bowls. Narduzzi 0-3 in bowls.
Interesting.
So we'll get a bowl winner for the first time. But Creighton is 2-0 against the spread at bowls. Of course he is.
Of course, that's how they roll.
That's how they roll at Eastern Michigan. And the 96th ranked offense for Pitt and Kenny Pickett. You surprised that he only has 10 touchdown passes this year?
Yeah, I am, because thought this would be the year that he would kind of spread his wings offensively. They lost 2,000-yard rushers last year. Thought that I think that's what's held them back this year. He has not been. Now he doesn't really have the weapons, but they have not been as dynamic offensively as they needed to be.
The Dog, as we move away from the Quick Lane Bowl, has won 5 of 7 outright at the Quick Lane Bowl. All right, let's move on now to Friday's games. And we'll start with the early one, Temple and North Carolina, the Military Bowl. North Carolina is a slight favorite, and they probably should be because most North Carolina games this year have been one-possession games, 9 in total. But even though that's the case, I'm taking North Carolina in this game. I just think that I expect them to be motivated, and I think that's important because I think they are – look, Sam Howell's had a fantastic season. He's an advantage already over Russo. Russo's thrown 25 interceptions in his 2 years as a starter. So even though they've got some good talent on offense at Temple, including Jaden Blue at wide receiver, North Carolina's got Williams and Carter in the backfield, Newsome and Brown at receiver. Howell's better in my mind than Russo, and I got a Mac Brown advantage over Rod Carey.
Yeah, I think it's a motivation here. Not that Temple's not motivated. They already have 2 wins over Power 5 teams. They sandwiched wins over Maryland and Georgia Tech and a loss at Buffalo. And they've also beaten Memphis. So it's a weird season for Temple. But I think Mac Brown, getting bowl eligible with the freshman quarterback, just signed a great recruiting class. I think second or third in the ACC. That program has a lot of momentum now, and I think they will be properly and highly motivated to go out with a winning record.
And maybe one of the better pass rushers that fans have not heard of, Quincy Roche for Temple, who leads the nation with 67 quarterback pressures. He also has 13 sacks. And Efine Maije, by the way, is another very talented interior pressure player. And that's been the staple of Temple football since Matt Rule took over several years ago.
Yes, they have had guys who can get after it defensively. Even going back further than that, they always seem to produce good defensive linemen there.
By the way, Rod Carey is 0-6 straight up and against the spread in bowl games.
I knew he struggled at Northern Illinois. Yeah, that's a good call right there.
All right, let's go. Oh, how about Chaz Surratt? What a change! What a great decision to go from quarterback to linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, you hear about some of those personnel moves, and you hear like officers, no, it's a great fit, it's whatever, it's going to be great, and then you never hear from the guy again. Well, that's a case where, he's clearly not an NFL quarterback. He will probably be in the NFL now after that move to defense.
Yeah, he leads the team in tackles for loss, and sacks. So, and that might also show you that Mac Brown. That's the one thing that has been a problem for North Carolina since Butch left. The defense, the recruiting on defense just has not been good at North Carolina for several years now, and I expect Mac Brown is going to do a good job of replenishing the defensive side of the ball real soon.
Sure.
And that'll make them the complete team that by time Sam Hall is a junior, they are going to be Sam Howell as a junior, they're going to be one of the better teams in the conference.
I agree.
All right, in the pinstripe, this is at the Bronx, Wake and Michigan State. And even though Wake has some key injuries this year, there was no way I was taking Michigan State in any bowl game. I mean, I don't even know who they would have had to have played for me to take them. And since they're taking on one of our darling teams with Jamie Newman in Wake Forest, I have no problem taking the Deacons here. They're about a plus 160 on the money line, or I can get about 4 or 5 points on the regular point spread. So I'm good either way.
Yeah, I better not say this too loudly. I'm at my in-laws in Michigan, 5 Michigan State grads among my wife's siblings, so I'll whisper that I'm taking Wake Forest easily here.
Okay, and we'll see whether or not
Wake got some good news, by the way. See, Sage Surratt, who was a third-year sophomore, so draft eligible, is coming back.
That's right. Was it Buki Basham's also coming back?
Yes, yes. So big boost for them.
Yeah, so a couple of key players coming back, and of course they lost Sternad, their leading linebacker, earlier this year. Not sure if Scotty Washington's going to play. Still unsure if he's playing, but they have Hinton. He's been doing a pretty.
If I told you, want me to get the Scotty Washington scoop? He's my daughter's college roommate's cousin, so I'll get the Scotty Washington scoop for you.
All right, excellent. Let's go to. Oh, by the way, the Deacons are 3-0 under Clausen in bowls, so that'll help out.
They beat Memphis last year in Birmingham, I think, last second play.
Yep, that was another one of those Memphis can't win the big ones, which we'll get to a little bit later on. By the way, the Dog has won 6 out of 8 at the Pinstripe Bowl too. So how about that?
That's a good stat.
All right, let's now go to the Texas Bowl. This is Oklahoma State, Texas A&M. And Texas A&M favored by a touchdown. This is one of those games where I probably would stay away from. But because of that, I'm like, you know what? I might as well do something with them on the money line just because I think it could happen. I mean, I don't think Texas A&M has played a game this season or has won a game this season over a quality team, even as good as Oklahoma State. Not that Oklahoma State's anything great, but still – you're talking about Chuba Hubbard, one of the best running backs in the country. It looks like Sanders is going to start the game, or at least he's going to play as much as Drew Brown. So they'll have both quarterbacks under center for Oklahoma State in this one. And the Dog has won the last 3 years in the Texas Bowl as well.
Yeah, I kind of shared your original thought in this one, Greg. Nothing would surprise me in this one.
Yeah, right.
In Texas A&M's got running back issues. I think I saw they only have one scholarship running back for this game.
That's
right. Some walk-on we never heard of will probably rush for 200 yards, knowing the way bowls work there. With Sanders back, will that be a boost? Who knows? You question the motivation of A&M. 7-5 record against 5 top 10 teams or top 8 teams, I think, at the time. So it's hard to call it a disappointing season when you play that many good teams there. So I just question. It's in Texas. Texas A&M will have the crowd, obviously. I picked Texas to cover there, but don't really feel good about it.
Yeah, the Aggies are going to be without their best defender. Matabuike is saying sayonara for the NFL draft. So Mond is coming off a 10 for 30 92-yard, 3-interception game against LSU. You have Jimbo Fisher, who's 6-2 in bowls, against Gundy. And this program, they are 3-0, straight up and against the spread the last 3 years in bowls, including winning 2 of the last 3 as the Dog. They upset Missouri last year as an 8-point dog. And by the way, A&M just 1-5 against bowl teams.
That was one of the most surprising results of the bowl season last year to me.
Yeah, a lot of people were high on Locke's last game. And, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Who was the quarterback for Oklahoma State last year again? That fifth-year senior.
Yeah, Taylor Cornelius.
There you go. So he had a nice little season for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Holiday Bowl. Now this was the one. The 180 that I did from the time I looked at the bowls and the lines to the time I started doing research and making my pick. Initially, I said, well, look, USC's got more talent. It's out west. Iowa's just they don't have an offense. I could see USC winning this game. And then all of a sudden, it took me about 5 minutes of research to realize that I am all over Iowa in this one now. So, I mean, there's so many reasons for me to like Iowa. You've got Kirk Ferentz against Clay Helton. That's number one. You've got the fact, and how about this one? The Big Ten has covered 10 straight bowl games against Pac-12 teams. You like that one?
Yeah, that's a good one.
And Iowa's covered 11. They've won 11 straight games as a single-digit favorite.
Okay, the 2 games that you've been strongest about, the Eastern Michigan cover and this one, I'm going against again. So you've been setting it up, and I'm thinking, how am I going to sit here and disagree with Greg? I don't know if USC can have much motivation But I think the fact that they didn't lose Graham Harrell, that he kind of re-signed their offensive coordinator, does give them a little momentum. They played well late in the year. Wins at Arizona State, at Cal, and then killed UCLA. I think that at least internally they might be a little re-energized. I'm sure externally with the fans and everything, they're still mad that they didn't make a coaching move. But I'm going against. I like all the reasons you like Iowa there. I just going against the trends, and I think USC will show up and play really well offensively.
And if also the Big Ten, by the way, is 4-0 straight up and against the spread the last 4 years versus the Pac-12 in the Holiday Bowl. So they've got that going for them. I also think that you'll have a little bit of extra inspiration with the passing of Hayden Fry for Iowa. So let's win one for Hayden. We know how those the Cornhuskers and Hawkeyes type of fans how sentimental they can get about their legendary head coaches. So
go Trojans though. Sorry.
Clay Helton, by the way, as a head coach, not as an interim, has never covered a bowl game.
Okay.
Anyway.
Duly noted.
By the way, what do you do if you're JT Daniels and Slovis?
Daniels said it was coming back.
So, okay.
As far as not transfer, I think Slovis. I think they just battle it out next year.
I mean, based on what you saw from Slovis this year and Daniels last year.
What do you do if you're the? I like Slovis. I mean, I don't pretend to say I've been there and seen every snap, but from what I've seen, I like Slovis. But I know Daniels was obviously the bigger prospect coming to college, but that doesn't matter anymore. I like
one of them at some point in the next year has got to go. I mean, you can't. There's not enough good quarterbacks in college football to have one of these guys sitting on the bench.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if they're both committed unless one of them leaves in summer after losing the battle.
Maybe it's Slovis because if Daniels wants this, because they have Fink coming back next year, senior year as a backup. So it's not that he's a good backup. So
good problem for them if they can manage it.
Yep. All right, now let's move on to the Friday night game. And that is the Cheez-It Bowl, Air Force, Washington State. I'm taking the Falcons in this one. They're a short favorite. You've got the number 3 rushing team in the nation against 78th ranked rushing defense. Look, when Washington State steps up in competition and quarterback Gordon, they don't play their best football. It's just, the better team wins, and Air Force, this is a very strong team. Hammond, when he's the quarterback, and right now he's playing his best football. He'll be there again next year. You've got the triple option that's hard to contain. You've got solid 3 running backs, including Remsburg. And probably the best receiver in the country nobody's ever heard of is Gerard Sanders, who leads the nation with a 25.3 average per catch. So I think Air Force is the way to go here.
Yeah, I like Air Force as well. They've had a really good year. Just lost twice to Boise State and Navy. You cannot get more contrasting styles in this game. Washington State leads the nation with 55.7 passing attempts per game. Air Force ranks second to last with 9.5. I think this is Air Force will be fired up to play against a Power 5 team. Again, they've had a really good year. I like Air Force to win.
Yeah, and Max Borgi might be the best running back that Mike Leach has ever had. I mean, this guy, he's got 81 receptions this year.
Yeah, he's a good weapon. They utilize him in a lot of different ways.
790 yards rushing. Okay. Oh, by the way, Washington State is 0-3 as a dog this year. All right, let's go to the Saturday games. Iowa State, Notre Dame. This is a good one.
One of the best just football matchups.
Yep. Camping World, and it's good that it's on Saturday because it's a nice way to kick off the playoffs. That's later on, starting at 4:00, I guess. But you got 2 very good defenses going up against each other. You got Purdy against Book. I don't know. Iowa State. It's interesting. They've only been a dog twice this year. They've lost both games by 1 point.
Yeah, that's been sort of the tale of their season. That losing a lot of close games. Could have been a better season, but they didn't. I think Notre Dame's undervalued here. I think they've had a very good season. Lost Georgia at Georgia. The Michigan game was disappointing that how uncompetitive they were. But 10-2, good season. Iowa State. it's, I've been saying all year they're the best 4-loss team, they're the best 5-loss team, but at some point you are, not to be Bill Parcells here, you are what you are. You are what your record is. Disappointing finale, losing by 10 at Kansas State. I always trust Matt Campbell there, but I think Notre Dame, even though there's some staff turnover, I don't know who's going to call plays actually because they don't have their offensive coordinator Chip Long anymore. But I like Notre Dame to come out and win this game.
Yeah, I just think that when Notre Dame does step up, and even though they've been close with, say, Georgia and so forth, that's when Book has not had his best games, when he's gone up against good defenses, Michigan, Georgia, even Bud Foster and Virginia Tech. Those were tough struggles for Book, and I expect Iowa State to give him that type of tough day. Interesting that Matt Campbell is 17-8-2 against the spread as a dog. And overall, I think this is gonna be a close football game. It's just these are just two good coached teams with good defenses. That's why I'm taking the points, and I could see Notre Dame winning a close game and Iowa State covering.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Again, aside from trying to forecast who's going to win, this is just one of the best bowl matchups of the whole season.
All right, let's go with the other 12 o'clock game that kicks off on Saturday. That's Memphis and Penn State. This is the Cotton Bowl, and this is where you get the Group of Five's best, and we'll see if Memphis, without Norvell, can win the game. Penn State kind of stumbled down the stretch. What do you think about their inspiration, their motivation in this game? Because Memphis has not fared very well the last few years in the dog role when they have to step up in competition.
Yeah, I like Penn State here. If there's a coach I trust to get his team motivated in basically any situation, it's Penn State. I know they lost last year in the bowl game to Kentucky, but that was a very physical Kentucky team that could kind of match them, especially a very good offensive line. Match them. I don't think Memphis can match them physically at the line of scrimmage. Now, Memphis has very good skill. Gainwell's could play anywhere in any league at running back. But I like Penn State. I think they're properly motivated. I think Memphis will be fine too. Silverfield stepping in as the head coach, but they've got some holes to fill in their staff. Again, it's hard to see if that will have much of an impact. But maybe I'm a little bit of a Power 5 snob, but I like Penn State's physicality at the line of scrimmage to be the difference.
Penn State 7-1 against the spread as a bowl favorite of 7 or less. The favorite in the Cotton Bowl has won 4 straight, 3-0-1 against the spread the last 4 years. Next year, Clifford's back, Hamler's back, Freiermuth's back, Jortney Brown is back. The defense loses Gross Matos, but as a matter of fact, Gross Matos, I don't know, is he a junior or senior? Is he declared yet? Do you know?
I haven't heard. I've not heard that one, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to quickly check to see it. But that's this used to be known as linebacker U, and it's good to see that they're kind of going back to that reputation. They have 3 really strong linebackers, led by Micah Parsons. And the thing I'm concerned with Memphis is Brady White. He doesn't play really well when he's got to go up against top defenses. His the games he struggled the most: Ole Miss, SEC defense, Cincinnati, both games. He didn't have a good game. He didn't play all that well, and Temple. He only had 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in those games. So.
Yep. Yeah. As far as Penn State too, we kind of semi-joking, but at Athlon we always make our individual national championship picks for the next season. And mine was before the 2019 season. I picked Penn State to play Texas A&M in the national championship game.
So you're halfway looking good.
Yeah. So, point being, I think Penn State should be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And the kid Coxie, the wide receiver, very good player. There's so many good wide receivers coming out of the NFL draft this year, and that's a kid to keep an eye on. And you mentioned Gainwell. Gainwell has had a fantastic season, but those teams I just mentioned that Brady White struggled against, Gainwell has also struggled. A 4.6 average, which is low for him, and just 1 rushing touchdown. So I agree with you. I kind of lean towards Penn State in this one as a 6.5-point favorite. Okay, let's get to the playoff games. And the first one is Oklahoma LSU in the Peach Bowl. Not that anybody cares about the bowl game, the name of it, but the fact that this is in Georgia, but big point spread. And Oklahoma, will this be the third straight year they enter the semis 12-1 and end their season 12-2?
I think so. I mean, we did a bowl confidence on our website at Athlon Sports. I think I had this LSU was near the top, if not my number one game. Oklahoma, great season, give them credit, all that, but LSU just too good across the board. Would love to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire play. It looks like he might, but with the suspensions, Oklahoma can't afford to lose. Perkins, their best pass rusher. That's just not a good recipe for losing him. Stevenson did a nice job running the ball, so he'll be a loss on offense. But I just don't see Oklahoma making LSU sweat too much.
Yeah, they got to get off to a good start. No question about it. They have to have confidence, especially moving the football. I'm real interested to see this matchup with CeeDee Lamb against Christian Fulton and Stingley. I don't think there's any question that Stingley's a player. I don't know how good Fulton is. That's why I want to see him matched up with CeeDee Lamb, because I know Delpit's a good player, and I know that Stingley's a good player. But if Fulton's a good player too, well, then how come this defense struggled so much in the passing game on defense? So
they played last couple of weeks. They played last two games. Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Georgia shut them down.
Yeah, that's why I want to see, now that they're stepping up with the big talent with Hurts and CeeDee Lamb, this is a great scouting game to see how these players match up with one another. But I would be a little bit apprehensive to go with LSU if Edwards-Helaire wasn't playing. It's a lot of points we're talking about.
Yeah, I know. I just seeing them up close could not be more impressed with LSU.
Yeah, I mean, we've been on LSU since before the season began, and by the way, Lincoln Riley has never lost a game in his head coaching career by more than 11 points.
Okay, so he's still a young coach, and he coaches at Oklahoma. So they're heavily favored most.
And undefeated Heisman teams are 0-5 against the spread as favorites of more than 10 points since 1984.
Duly noted.
Do you think Lincoln Riley? You think he'll be back next year at Oklahoma?
I do.
Right?
I do.
All right. And who's going to be the quarterback?
Spencer Rattler. They're redshirt freshman right now.
So the transfer game is over.
I think they would prefer to start, have multi-year starters there. It's worked out well, but I know, Baker Mayfield was, but I think they recruit well. I think Rattler's their guy.
Now, wouldn't you, if you were like one of these again, if they already have a young one, that's different. But if you're like an older transfer, that's where you want to go. So
yeah. Now I think Derek King might be the starting quarterback at LSU next year.
Oh, so you don't think he's coming back to Houston?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think he ever planned on it.
That would be big if you go to LSU, because that's a big loss. Obviously, if you lose Burrow, well, you will lose Burrow. Okay, yeah. Ohio State Clemson in the Fiesta Bowl. And this is the one game that, I got to be honest with you, even though it is you don't want to say you feel the most confident going up against a great team like Ohio State. But because I basically don't have to give up any points in this game, this is like the one game that I would actually go with more than any game, because I do believe Clemson is going to win this football game. And it's really not a knock on Ohio State. I just think Clemson is that team that we saw at the end of last year where we were going in the beginning of the season when we were like, wow, this is going to be – they might even be better than last year's team. They started showing that at the end of the season. Ohio State started showing, I think, their truer colors against top teams at the end of the season, especially when they had a lineup, even in a neutral site game like the Big Ten championship game. So I love Clemson in this game. I just think Ohio State is playing a team that they're going up against a team that they've never gone up against before. They're taking on a team that has swagger because they've backed it up, and they're the champs. They've been there, they've done it, and I don't think Ohio State. I don't think they're going to know what they're going to get into. I just don't. I actually think if Ohio State doesn't come to play the way they didn't come to play in the first half to Wisconsin, I think they could be down 3 scores at halftime.
I agree. I like Clemson. But also Ohio State's the best team Clemson's played as far as, as well.
Oh,
You would expect, you'd expect this
absolutely.
to be the best team that each other has played. And, Justin Fields kind of came out and said yesterday that his knee isn't quite what he
Oh, the
expected.
excuses are already coming out. Okay.
And you saw, they did give up, I think, 31 sacks this year. Wisconsin got to them, the offensive line both games. And I think Clemson with that defense, if they can get to Fields and he's not as mobile as he'd like to be, that could spell trouble. So I feel really good about Clemson in this game as well.
Great matchups, too. You've got the Ohio State corner. They've got some really good corners going up against the receivers from Clemson. T. Higgins is the best of them. So those are some really good matchups to keep an eye on. I also want to see Jackson Carman, the sophomore tackle for Clemson, to see if he goes one-on-one with Chase Young. Doubt they're going to let that happen much, but hopefully we'll get to see it. And Etienne and Dobbins, who do you like better?
Both. I mean, just,
Come on. You have to pick one. You're an NFL team and need a running back. Who are you taking?
Etienne probably, but would feel good about both of them.
Okay. And Chase Young, you think he'll be the first pick of the draft? Or will it be Burrow?
I think if it's Cincinnati, it'll be Burrow.
Yeah, I agree. All right. By the way, Clemson's covered 7 straight games. And Ohio State just 1-3 ATS over their last 4. Ryan Day has never lost a game. So
that is correct.
It's always everybody
he will
loses.
at some point.
Yeah, unless he wins the national championship and then he's off to the NFL.
Right, and then he'll lose a lot.
That's right. All right, a few more before we let it go. On Monday, you've got the first responder in the Music City. I like Western Kentucky out of those 2 games the most. Helton has done a tremendous job there year 1. You've got one of the better defensive linemen nobody's ever heard of, D'Angelo Malone, who leads all FBS defensive linemen in tackles with 90. They have been a better team since Ty Storey has taken over, the veteran quarterback. Excellent offensive line. Western Michigan, when they have to step up in competition in these bowl games, they're just way overmatched.
Yeah, I like Western Kentucky, too. Summers did an underrated job nationally. They got off to a start where they lost to Central Arkansas. So you kind of just discarded them and said, okay, another bad year from Western Kentucky. But they've been very good. Like you mentioned, Ty Storey, Arkansas grad transfer, goes back to Arkansas and beats them this year. So I do too, like Western Kentucky in this game to win and cover.
And Levante Bellamy, I think he's going to have a very nice career in the NFL.
Yep.
And I hear he's banged up a little. And I tell you right now, if he is banged up a little, I'm his friends, his family. You should not be playing this game. Sorry.
Well, I'm about 30 miles from the Western Michigan campus right now, so I'll do some background.
Yeah.
I'll do some digging. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, tell him I'd like to be his agent.
Yeah. Tell him Greg from North Carolina says don't play.
He's like probably not even going to be, but I would think he's going to be a steal no matter where he gets picked because he's not going to go as early as his talent tells you. But he's
had a nice career.
He's going to have a great career. He's fast. He's explosive. By the way, Western Michigan 1-8 all time in bowls, and they've never won a bowl game not coached by P.J. Fleck.
Okay, there you go.
Music City, Mississippi State, Louisville. Who do you like in that one?
I like Louisville. I think Mississippi State, disappointing season. They got in. They're probably not in a bowl game. Well, they're not in a bowl game if Ole Miss is, Elijah Moore doesn't, do his urination celebration there. Just not a ton of momentum right now. Mississippi State, they lost their linebackers coach, Chris Marv, to Florida State. I think Louisville, even though they lost to Kentucky, a lot to play for. Both teams will have big crowds in Nashville. Louisville about 2.5 hours up the road. Mississippi State with a big alumni base in Nashville, not too far. So it should be a fun game. But I like Scott Satterfield, the surging program, over Mississippi State.
Yeah, Mekhi Becton, the offensive tackle for Louisville, is skipping the game. So he's going to the NFL draft. And you've got the favorite in the Music City Bowl, has won 9 of 10, covered 7 of 10. Kalen Hill, if I'm taking Louisville, I'm worried the most about Kalen Hill because and Schrader, because of the fact that Louisville is one of the worst rushing defenses in college football. They gave up 284 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns to Lynn Bowden in that Louisville, Kentucky game.
Yep. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but yeah. Sorry, Mississippi State though. Go ahead.
Well, basically, the bottom line is as close as a game.
I had a point about Mississippi State, trust me, but I just lost it.
That's okay. Hill's a good running back too. He's somebody to keep an eye on at the next level. So Louisville, look, I actually expect this game to be a high-scoring game.
Yeah, that was my point. I think it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah.
Mississippi State defense disappointing this year after just historically one of the best defenses in the SEC statistically that we saw ever last year. Tells you personnel matters.
And Cameron Dantzler is also not playing in the game going NFL, the cornerback for Mississippi State. The Red Box Bowl, Illinois and Cal. Cal's about a touchdown favorite in this one, but hey, I love what Illinois has done this year as a dog. And the way they played at the end of the year, they've covered their last 5 as a dog. They've got wins over Wisconsin, Michigan State. I don't care what happened in the final 2 games because they became bowl eligible. They're not the same hot team they were before that. I think they're just so psyched about this game that I think they'll be able to keep it close because Cal, I just don't think they should be given 7 points to any bowl-eligible team. I'm not saying Illinois is going to win the game, but I just think it's going to be probably one of those 17-16 games.
I'm going against you. I'm very concerned the way Illinois played in that. A home game against Northwestern, who has had your rival who you don't like, who shouldn't be better than you but has been better than you. You get them at home. You're having a good year. They're having a miserable year, and you let them score whatever they scored. 29 points in that game. Miserable performance. Cal with a lot of momentum when Chase Garbers has been the Cal quarterback. They've been a good team. Their slide midseason, he wasn't there. They beat Stanford and UCLA to get to the 7-win mark. I really like Cal in this one.
By the way, the dog is 2-2 straight up, 4-0 against the spread the last 4 years at the Red Box. The Big Ten has played the Pac-12 all 4 of those years with the Big Ten and the dog roll all 4 of those years. So the Big Ten, and we just already told you what the Big Ten does to Pac-12 teams in bowl games. How about Evan Weaver against Dele Harding, the number 1 tackler in the nation against the number 2 tackler in the nation?
Yep, won't be playing against each other unless they're in special teams. But Weaver's been a fun guy to watch and fun guy to listen to. He's an outspoken guy too. So so some good individual players in this game, obviously. But I'm a big Justin Wilcox fan. He has done a great job there. They keep getting better.
Cal just 1-2 straight up, 0-3 against the spread as a favorite this year, and it's their first favorite role since the Oregon State loss on October 19th. You might have seen out on the web recently, 9 players are not playing in this game for Cal. There's only 2 key players not playing, though. Defensive back Ashton Davis and wide receiver Jordan Duncan. But bottom line is Cal will be without several players in this game.
Yeah, Davis is a good player. He's a real good player.
Yep. Okay, and the final game on Monday night is the Orange Bowl. Florida is a 14-point favorite against Virginia. C.J. Henderson's already said he's not playing. He's off to the NFL draft, the best corner for the Gators, and maybe even the second cornerback taken in the NFL draft. So, but you've got a 14-point spread. That's a little high for me. Mullen's done a tremendous job there. I know Florida's a better team. I know the ACC stinks. But I just think the point spread's too high.
Agree with everything you said. You won't find a bigger Dan Mullen fan than me. Thought he was just such a great hire by Florida. They've overachieved the last 2 years. But just the number seems high. Bryce Perkins, very good quarterback for Virginia. By the way, Bryce Perkins would be ideal in a Dan Mullen offense. Florida couldn't do what it really wanted to this year because they didn't, once Trask came in, he did a nice job, but he's not the runner. Florida, Dan Mullen usually likes a more mobile quarterback there. So I think Bryce Perkins would have been awesome for Dan Mullen, but I think he's going to have a big game. They actually did some good things against Clemson. They moved the ball.
Yeah.
They crossed midfield 3 straight possessions, which I'm sure no one else had done against Clemson. I keep meaning to look that up. So I like Virginia to keep this thing close. They're going to be really excited to be there.
The Dog has won 8 of the last 12 Orange Bowls straight out. So we'll keep an eye on whether they can pull that out again. I think this would be a close 4-quarter game. Do you think that Mullen just says, okay, no doubt Trask is my quarterback next year? Or does he want to go in another direction, and does Trask become somebody that might transfer?
I don't think so. I mean, if you know Trask's story, he's been a backup, basically his whole life. He was backup quarterback in high school, too. I think he stuck it out. I think he's going to stay in battle. Emory Jones played some this year, more mobile quarterback. So they have some options there. I don't see them going the grad transfer route unless they can get someone like Derek King. But, I have no insight in this, but I would expect Trask to be back just knowing the kind of the journey he's taken.
And then let's wrap it up with the first 2 games on Tuesday. That's the Belk and the Sun Bowls, Kentucky and Bowdoin. What a tremendous job this kid has done filling in the quarterback position, and I'm assuming he's the starting quarterback next year, unless he's going pro.
He's going pro, and Terry Wilson will be back. The starter.
That's too bad.
He was a junior college transfer with 3 years of eligibility, so he will be back at
3 years of eligibility. You got to find someone else then quick. So anyway, that's too bad because good for him though.
Bone said he is gone, but he's definitely playing in the game.
Yeah, I mean he leads the team in rushing and receiving, and he's the quarterback. And he's doing it as the quarterback of an SEC team. This isn't like a MAC or a Sun Belt type of situation. Stoops has done a really good job with this program. The defense has been better than anybody would have thought that it would have been this year.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Eddie Gran fan. I think he's one of the most underrated offensive coordinator in the country, and they got him. He had overtures from some other schools, Georgia last year. So I like Kentucky in this game. I think, Bowdoin goes out with a big game.
Hey, last game for Bud Foster.
Yep.
There'll be some motivation on the Hokie sideline as well. But you think Kentucky will be a little bit more – see, that's the thing, that at least there's a win for Bud Foster thing there. But no question, Kentucky, they've been impressive at the end of the season. If Virginia Tech doesn't lose to Virginia, then they're riding a tremendous winning streak coming into this one. So
right, yeah. There's a lot of motivation for Bud Foster. Virginia lit them up in the second half.
They did, yeah.
In the game.
And then finally, Florida State, Arizona State. This is one of the situations where I would love that these teams were split, so I could go against both of them, because you've got both coordinators gone from Arizona State. Eno Benjamin gone. You've got Ayuk gone, the tremendous wide receiver prospect for Arizona State. So you got all that change for Arizona State. But do I want to take Florida State? Cam Akers is gone. We know what's happened to them, all those injuries on defense. I don't even know what to do here.
Stay away, but I like Florida. I like Arizona State. Yeah, I think Florida State, the future is bright. I love the hire. I like some of the staff they're putting together there. But with Cam Akers is by far their best offensive player. I just can't see them being that motivated to play in this game. Arizona State has its issues as well, but I like the Sun Devils in a game that I really have no feel for.
Yeah, and by the way, Arizona State has never covered a game against an ACC team. They're 2-8 against the spread in their last 10 bowl games as well, and they have not covered a game this year as a favorite. Arizona State. So, but if they and El Paso is always one of those bowl games that when you watch it on TV, you go, man, I'm glad I'm not at that bowl game. It's usually cold there sometimes.
Yeah, it's one of the rare non-ESPN games, always on CBS.
There you go. All right, LSU and Clemson right now. If you had to pick it, which you are right now for the championship game, who you're going to go with LSU or are you going to slide to Clemson?
I think I'd go LSU. Obviously we'd want to see the semifinal matchups there, see the health of Edwards-Helaire, but I'm sticking with LSU.
And don't forget, we had LSU in the beginning of the season as our sleeper national championship pick at 23-1. I think they were right around there.
Recall.
Yeah, they were on 23-1 to win the night. Right now, they're even money. Not bad, huh? Think we know what we're talking about?
Yeah, sometimes.
Half the time. Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate it as always, especially on Christmas Eve, Mitch. Merry Christmas, and obviously Happy New Year, too, because we'll talk to you. Well, maybe we'll talk to you before New Year's. It all depends. So,
We'll figure it out.
yeah, we'll do one more of these shows at the very least. Enjoy the games, and thanks for taking the time out to do this.
All right. Take care, Greg.